Breaking news to bring you. Counterterrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of Ann Widdecombe after, quote, new evidence and information has come to light. This is according to Counterterrorism Policing South East. This is the breaking news that counter-terrorism police are now leading the investigation into the death of Ann Widdecombe after, I quote, new information and evidence has come to light. Let's just remind you as to how we got to this point. Well, around 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning, Widdecombe had appeared for a live interview on Talk TV. That afternoon, she was in touch with a researcher at Channel 5 News on WhatsApp, and they confirmed a TV appearance for later in the day. At 12:19 p.m. on Wednesday, she sent her last WhatsApp message. It read, "Received, panic over." Police believe the alleged murder took place at around 12:30 p.m. on Wednesday. At 1:25, Widdecombe failed to join a Zoom meeting for her interview, and multiple calls to check in go unanswered from the producer. On Thursday at around 11, emergency services find Widdecombe dead at home. The following morning, her agent confirms her death but doesn't mention the circumstances. Police arrested a 26-year-old man on Friday afternoon who was then released on Saturday morning and removed from the investigation. At Saturday at around 11:30, police confirmed they'd arrested a 28-year-old man in Rotherham, a white British national, and yesterday they said that there was no evidence the murder was politically motivated. Well, we're just hearing now that there's reaction from the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. We'll bring you that statement in full, but this is the news that police say that new information and evidence has come to light and that the investigation is now being led by counter-terrorism police. This is Counter-Terrorism Policing South East. Let's bring you the statement from the Home Secretary. And this is Shabana Mahmood saying, "This morning I've spoken to the head of terrorism police. Following new information and evidence, they're now leading on the investigation into the horrific murder of Ann Widdecombe. The police are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack. I will be updating the House further this afternoon. My thoughts today remain with Ann's family and friends and all those who loved her." So this is the breaking reaction and statement from the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. Let's read it to you again. "This morning I have spoken to the head of terrorism policing. Following new information and evidence, they are now leading on the investigation into the horrific murder of Ann Widdecombe. The police are pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack. I'll be updating the House further this afternoon. My thoughts remain with Ann's family and friends and all those who loved her." And so this is the breaking news in the last few moments, that Counter-Terrorism Policing South East is now leading the investigation into the death of Ann Widdecombe. I'm just getting reaction and further details here. It's just coming to us live at Sky News that the 28-year-old man, this is being brought to us by the Press Association, the 28-year-old white British man in custody has been, we understand, rearrested on suspicion of commission of preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. This is according to Counter-Terrorism Policing South East. It comes, they say, after the new information and evidence came to light during the investigation into the 78-year-old Reform spokeswoman's death on Wednesday. This statement from Counterterrorism Policing saying that they can confirm they are now leading the investigation into the death of Ann Widdecombe. Specialist officers from across the CPT network have been working alongside colleagues in Devon and Cornwall Police since the investigation was launched last week. Officers were called by the ambulance service. Ann Widdecombe was located deceased at the property. The 28-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder on Saturday. The new information means that counter-terrorism police are leading the investigation. The man in custody has since been rearrested on suspicion of commission, preparation or instigation of acts of terrorism. We'll continue to work closely with colleagues from Devon and Cornwall Police to establish the full circumstances of the incident. Let's go live to Exeter and our correspondent Dan Whitehead. Dan, what can you tell us?
Well, this is a major update in this investigation, and we had been questioning what has been going on over the last 24 hours because of course, this arrest of this 28-year-old man took place at 9 p.m. on Saturday night. Fast forward to 9 o'clock this morning, and we're at 36 hours since his arrest, and we're looking at police from Devon and Cornwall having to go to magistrates for extra time, and so everyone was waiting for a charge. So we had suspected that perhaps behind the scenes in this investigation something has been going on, and as we've just been hearing there, this significant statement from Counterterrorism Police confirming now that this man has been arrested now, rearrested on suspicion of the commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism. Now, in the press conferences that we've had over the weekend, on Friday night and on Sunday, the police had repeated their belief that this was not terror related, that they were keeping an open mind as to the motive behind this, and that there was no evidence to suggest that this was politically motivated. Let me just bring you a little bit of that statement which we've touched on so far, saying that specialist officers from across the Counterterrorism Police network have been working alongside Devon and Cornwall Police since the murder investigation last week. The new information and evidence has come to light during what has been a dynamic and complex investigation. And as a result, Counterterrorism Policing South East is now leading the investigation. Now, this is interesting because Counterterrorism Police North East have been working with South Yorkshire Police on the arrest in Rotherham on Saturday night. Now we're looking at the South East CTP unit being involved, in fact leading that investigation now. The man who we know has been in custody since Saturday night being rearrested on suspicion of commission, preparation and instigation of acts of terrorism. Now, the counter-terror statement says that they will continue to work with Devon and Cornwall Police, a major crime investigation team, and the CTP network across the country in an effort to continue this investigation. There's a bit more, let me just bring these lines because these are coming in thick and fast. We're hearing from Lawrence Taylor, who is the head of National Counter-Terrorism Police, saying, building on the progress made by Devon and Cornwall Police, we now have new information and new evidence that means CTP is now leading this investigation. We're pursuing multiple lines of inquiry to establish the motivation for this attack. Our priority is progressing this investigation quickly with all the capabilities that we have, and goes on to thank the public, of course, for their help in this investigation. Around 120 reports via the public portal online to Devon and Cornwall Police over the last few days as to gathering evidence which has been going on. We heard from the Chief Constable of Devon and Cornwall Police yesterday saying that this investigation has been happening at lightning pace, and it really has. Clearly behind the scenes there has been a lot going on, an investigation that was centred on this remote area of Dartmoor from Friday now spreads 270 miles north with an arrest in Rotherham on Saturday. What was the motive? What drove that suspect, if indeed he did so, to drive down to Ann Widdecombe's house? Now we learn, involving counter-terrorism police in the south east of the country, and indeed that CTP unit leading the investigation, still working with Devon and Cornwall Police. But clearly this means that there is a change now in the direction of the motive, potentially, and clearly terrorism being treated as an act of terrorism, something that the police initially were so keen to stress that it wasn't. That was in the statement on Friday. It was repeated in the statement on Sunday. And clearly since 11 o'clock here in Exeter at Police HQ, there's been developments as they've been questioning that 28-year-old British white man from Rotherham. Clearly evidence and those interviews, the evidence they've gathered from the house there, police have been outside the house in Rotherham, evidence from his police interviews has brought in terrorism police now. And that clearly is the number one line of inquiry, that this is now being treated as a terrorism incident.